Hey guys, welcome to the Talk and Roll Express episode 17, WCW New Blood Rising 2000. New Blood Rising was a professional wrestling pay-per-view PPV event produced by World Championship Wrestling, WCW. It took place on August 13, 2000 from the Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, British Columbia. The name is a reference to the New Blood faction within WCW, which dissolved before the pay-per-view. The event replaced WCW's August PPV event Road Wild, held from 1996 to 1999 and was held on a Sunday instead of a Saturday. Despite never being announced before or during the show, every match on the card was contested under no disqualification rules.
Right, guys. Initial impressions of this pay-per-view.
Paul, do you mind if I go first?
You go first, son.
Without hyperbole, this is not only the worst pay-per-view I've ever seen, this is actually the worst thing I've ever seen on my TV since I bought it.
You know, I'll jump in here just behind you, Thomas. I wholeheartedly agree. I think we are generally quite positive. I think in our previous reviews we try to find the good in stuff that maybe has been slammed before. But there's really no upside to this at all. It's like watching, and I know WCW was on life support at this point. I wholeheartedly acknowledge that, but this is like watching the family dog limping around the house. Please somebody take it to the vet and give it the jag.
It's funny you should say that, Lewis. To give you the abridged version of something that happened to me nigh on 2 years ago, I stayed at an Airbnb in Wales. The host was a very nice, if not strange, woman. She had a lot of animals. Some old, some young, some with problems, some without. She asked my dad and I if we would like to take the dogs for a walk, and of course we agreed, walking dogs in the Welsh countryside. As we found out, as this one dog tried to climb up a particularly steep hill, it started panting and collapsed. This dog had died, and my dad and I, as Airbnb guests, had been tasked with burying this dog. It was a quite horrific experience. However, when I was watching New Blood Rising, I remembered that experience fondly, as this was even worse than that.
Right, well, I mean, neither me nor Thomas are going to be able to top that. There is no, what I want to do is, I just want to skim over the matches, because I don't want to go over them in depth. Well, okay, I want to go over the opening match in depth, but I don't want to go over anything else in depth, because really, this isn't a pay-per-view that warrants going in depth.
I don't even think we can get funnies out of this one.
No, the problem is, as you're saying, it's hard not to go into these matches in any sort of depth though, because every single match is like some kind of Inception level puzzle that I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Everything's like a Da Vinci Code. I mean, it's like, why can't you just have a match? And I thought I should fucking start, man. Honestly, seriously.
It's like wrestling. There is an art to it, an art to what the wrestlers actually do, and even I suppose nowadays with WWE there is some creativity and thought to it, but it's a pretty simple process in that the good guy wins and everyone says hooray, or the bad guy wins and everyone says boo. It didn't even make sense on that fucking level. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be.
I feel the worst when the first match got announced and people were making their entrances, and I went, oh my god, here we go. Apart from the fact that I have absolutely no idea what was going on from a gimmick point of view, I thought the in-ring action here was pretty good. But as the match went on, I hadn't a clue it was good. It was a ladder match. You climb the ladder, you grab something, usually a belt, a briefcase, whatever. A record contract, a gold record. There was two things. I mean,
and then he grabbed the gold record, and the match just carried on. And
I would like to put up this little disclaimer before we discuss 3 Count versus the Young Dragons. I was watching film analysis explained thing with Midsummer and Hereditary, the 2 recent works of Ari Aster, who's a fantastic young filmmaker, and I can't really wait to see what he's going to come up with at some point down the pipeline. And they were talking about how upon repeated viewings of Midsummer, you notice subliminal imaging in the background. There's little Easter eggs buried that kind of predict the film's ending and whatnot. And I just thought, Ari Aster, what you get with things like Hereditary and Midsummer is it rewards you for repeated viewings, and it indulges you for going along with it. This is a pay-per-view that actively punishes you for staying on.
Yeah.
It's like every match just gets worse. Everything, there's more run-ins, there's more botches. It begins with a sinkhole, and you're completely in the depths of despair.
Yeah. It's almost like Damon Lindelof went and wrote it as a laugh, and David Lynch directed it while on acid.
It's as if they did write this pay-per-view for a laugh, and then they accidentally threw away the real script. And, it was about an hour before the show went live, and it was like, fuck it, man, we've just got to go with the joke script.
Exactly. You get like the end of a Raw, the end of a SmackDown, where the wrestlers will come out and have a bit of fun for the crowd.
Yeah.
It was like they made a pay-per-view like that and accidentally released it.
Yeah, it was like the darkest of dark matches. It felt like these were all dark matches, and they just accidentally left the camera rolling.
Yeah. I know that, and whenever we've had our previous recording sessions of that, I've always done the Vince voice. For nothing else than to elicit a chuckle out of the two of you. I feel like I have to say, watching late stage WCW, I just want to make this special audience to Vince, if you're listening, and I know you are. Vince, I'm sorry. Hunter, I'm sorry. Bruce Pritchard, I'm sorry. Paul Heyman, I'm sorry. To anybody who, even the suggestion that I've insulted the modern product, I just want to retract every last piece of that statement I've made over the course of 17 episodes. I'm sorry. I will watch the modern product to death before I have to watch one more episode of WCW 2000.
And here's the thing as well. I genuinely think there's a lot of wrestling fans out there, the so-called smart marks and things like that will say stuff that they've heard on other podcasts and repeatedly they know what they're talking about. They'll say stuff like, yeah, that match got a good story, or yeah, he's really happy. That's X-Pac heat, or that match was overbooked. I don't think they know what anything means, especially when it comes to overbooked, because they can never ever look at anything ever again. I know I can, and say that match is overbooked and compare it to this pay-per-view as a whole.
I would just like to tack on to that, and that if you were a quote-unquote smart mark and you listen to this podcast and repeat anything you've heard on this podcast, just please don't. You will lose your job. Your friends will look at you funny. Your family, they're already quite disappointed in you that you're an adult wrestling fan, so I won't worry about it. And there go the YouTube views.
But see, we're emulating New Blood Rising. We're actively, pissing off our fan base. No, I want to say that our little kind of recording sessions were born out of a love of, the good old days, the fucking good old days. But growing up, you have to do like today's as good as it's ever going to get, and the stuff of 10 years ago, the stuff of 20 years ago. Guess what, kids? Some of it is bad, and it's not only some of it bad, some of it is very, very bad, as we're just discovering now.
The funny thing is, The Rock tweeted the other day. And it was actually quite surprising because it wasn't just a tweet that was about being in the gym at 5 a.m. and drinking tequila at the same time and being #blessed. It was actually him being like, damn, the Attitude Era was good. And it was like, nah, do I dare call out The Rock? Do I dare take The Rock on over this? Be like, no. Listen to the Talk and Roll Express, you fucking mark.
I mean, I've done my 4 disclaimers. I'm happy enough to get into 3 count versus the Young Dragons now.
Oh God, have we not talked about that yet?
But we teased a little bit of it. I mean, there's 11 matches to get into. So shall we just? Let's start off on the high point and just work our way down, shall we?
This was a good match. In terms of in-ring action, this was a good match. The guys put on a good show. It just had no idea what was happening towards the end of it.
It is a ladder match where they have to retrieve 2 things. If that isn't unnecessarily pointless booking, I don't know what is. Because the minute that the Young Dragons initially win the match, and let's face it, for all intents and purposes, they did win the match. I was expecting the bell to ring and go, all right, short but sweet. With Ernest the Cat Miller versus the Great Muta. Let's see that match. But no, it didn't end. It went on another additional, length of its runtime, and there's a spot towards the end of the match where I believe it's Shannon Moore gets put sideways across a ladder. One of the Young Dragons comes off the top rope and gives him a leg drop, and they put him in a ladder for absolutely no reason. That's very indicative of this match.
I enjoyed the fact that while the Young Dragons were just wrestling, the commentators were just losing their shit trying to work out why the fact that the Young Dragons wanted a recording contract. And I must say, I agree wholeheartedly. I don't understand the premise of it. Why do they want to win a recording contract?
Did Tank Abbott win this match? Because it seemed to be the case at times.
I do love how Tank Abbott just decided he was in the match.
More like Wank Abbott.
Oh, he's legit.
This match proved otherwise.
It was 20 years ago. I'm sure all could take him now.
Did anybody notice the amount of inside terminology that was being used by Tony Schiavone and Mark Madden? Mark Madden, who is a hockey critic, and I just want to mention this about Mark Madden before we go any further. Mark Madden, hockey critic, who got fired from his locally syndicated radio show in 2008 because a member of the Kennedy political family got diagnosed with a brain tumour in 2008, and he said, "Oh, a brain tumour is going to kill him. I was hoping he would live long enough to be assassinated."
Whoa!
That family member would go on to die a year later. I just want to put that out there about what a stand-up guy Mark Madden is.
I mean, it's one of those, if you told me about any 90s wrestling commentator and turned around and they said that, I would just give you a list of names. It's one of those where it's surprising, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, actually, I can see him saying that.
Oh, yeah, inside terminology, because I didn't actually say. Tony Schiavone actually drops the match. Lots of high spots in this match. And as the 3 count are coming out, Tony or Mark mentions now the 3 count have gave a series of shoot interviews demoning the Young Dragons. I just think,
what was that about?
Is this foreshadowing?
Why did you just do it? Like, what happened if one of them got like shoot injured? Would he just been like, I'm going to break kayfabe to tell you he's not well?
It's like Kevin Nash at the start of the show says, "Steiner, tonight I'm going over," and it's like,
honestly,
tonight I have been booked to win the match. You are going to do the business for me.
Yeah, Mark Madden actually at one point says, "Oh, there's lots of people going into business for themselves here tonight."
Oh my god, no, I can't. I need a rum.
I would have just fucking loved it. We'll get to this, but we might as well not get to this. I would love it if Goldberg just turned to the camera and just went, "That won't work for me, brother."
Yeah, I don't know if we can go any further with 3 count versus the Young Dragons. I mean, in a way, its runtime is the only sort of redeeming thing about it. Jimmy Wan Yang and Shane Helms, who would go on to have really fantastic matches, later on in SmackDown in 2007. I understand wholeheartedly with them. In fact, I just want to mention this last about the commentators before we move on to Ernest the Cat Miller versus the Great Muta. There's a spot when it's Evan Courageous gets Irish whipped into the post just outside the ring, and Tony Schiavone says Shannon Moore taking some amount of abuse, and even I, who've never watched a 3 count match before, went, "Tony, that's not Shannon Moore, that's Evan Courageous."
Oh, I'm glad they haven't overdubbed that.
Yeah, can we discuss how the Turnertrons, because they were trying to chase up with Vince at this point, they don't have, like, every other frame of their everyone's Titantron is WCW, like a big version of the logo comes up. Like, yeah, I guess we can forget. Oh, the stage. They have 2 massive screens to either side of the Turnertron. They never get used once during this entire show.
It was just so poorly put together, and it actually does have the feel of a company in absolute freefall. It's in fact to put it into, to visualize it for you, because you're not going to go and watch New Blood Rising after our glowing review. You know those winter wonderlands that keep popping up and you get to meet Father Christmas. But it's actually like a disused farm in like Milton Keynes or something. And Santa has like emphysema. And the reindeer is actually a dead horse. And there is no Wonderland. That is this set. That is this pay-per-view.
The only way I would actively encourage anyone to watch New Blood Rising is if they're watching it in the guise of the pretense of imagining how many times in the background, if this was a WWF show, Vince McMahon would rip off the headset and simply mutter the words, "Horrible."
I don't know what our audience looks like. I imagine they smell like old milk. I don't know what our audience look like, but if we do have any dominatrixes listening to us and you have a client with a humiliation fetish, I would make him watch this pay-per-view.
Just the barrage of empty maroon-coloured seats throughout this entire pay-per-view. Front row, there are empty seats staggered throughout
Can we
this.
talk about the signs as well?
Well, I was just going to discuss how dead the crowd was in Canada. Like, do you understand how bad your show has to be to get a silent crowd in Canada?
Does it have to be WCW's 2000 pay-per-view New Blood Rising?
Perhaps.
There's a lot of empty seats here as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. It's bereft of any kind of joy or enthusiasm. The one person that got a standing ovation during this entire pay-per-view was Big Sexy Kevin Nash. And I believe a lot of that was down to the Wolfpack theme, which still 20 years later does admittedly slap.
Oh, it stomps. It absolutely stomps.
And on that note, let's move on to Ernest the Cat Miller versus the Great Muta. Now,
do we have to talk about this? Because I genuinely don't remember this match.
No, the only thing I remember is that they went and missed the green mist shot. It does it, and then but the camera doesn't catch it.
Well, the only thing I can say about this match is the Great Muta is exuding big, just shave it off energy. I mean, his hair is completely thin at this point. It's a shame as well because Great Muta, you know, as WCW was kicking off, or as it was kind of widely regarded as kicking off in 1990, he had some absolute burners. With the best of them, Flair and Sting, and at this point he's working. I'm not going to besmirch Ernest the Cat Miller, but there was no chemistry.
All I'll say about this match, and then try and never remember it ever again, was it's one of only two matches on the card that doesn't have a stipulation. One of two.
Yeah.
I mean, 11 match cards.
Yeah, okay. Match number 3. Oh, dear God.
No.
I'm going to say it, Cammy. Hold up, I'm about to say it. Buff Bagwell versus Chris Kanyon. Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
I really want to know did I watch a video that was like the 10 most ridiculous match stipulations, or has just like the words Judy Bagwell on a forklift match just forever been swirling around my head and has come to fruition at this point?
Do you know what annoys me? Vince Russo, and I'll try to give the benefit of the doubt with certain things, because I used to quite enjoy his podcast and that when he was reviewing the wrestling, but he always defends the fact that it was never Judy Bagwell on a pole. I don't know why people keep saying that. It was a forklift, it wasn't a pole. I'm like, yeah, but how many times did they mention before this match started Judy Bagwell on a pole? They say it repeatedly, and she comes out a fucking forklift. I have no idea why either is a thing.
The match type is X on a pole match. You're not going to suddenly like rewire your brain to be like, oh yeah, it was Judy Bagwell on a pole. How would they even get Judy Bagwell on a pole?
I would imagine it would be like one of those Cannibal Holocaust setups where the lassie just has the big stick coming out of her mouth. Yeah, Thomas will get that reference, but yeah, no, this was.
I'd rather not get that reference, unfortunately.
And again, it's Chris Kanyon. He's positively Kanyon. He's not just Kanyon. He's DDP right. Kanyon.
Kanyon's actually not too bad here. He's quite a slightly snidey heel. Bagwell does not suit this babyface role at all.
No,
I don't get it. Is it like the whole thing with like the Judy Bagwell stipulation? This match just felt like whoever won got to fuck Judy Bagwell. That was the thing I was getting during this match. And just to jump off at that point,
Yeah,
so I've got the card up on Wikipedia, just so I can follow what's actually happened. And the name is a reference to the New Blood faction within WCW, which dissolved before the pay-per-view. And okay, so there's like just another section that is storylines. So, give you a bit of background into the pay-per-view. The event featured wrestlers from pre-existing scripted feuds and storylines. Wrestlers portrayed villains, heroes, or less distinguishable characters in the scripted events that built tension and culminated in a wrestling match or series of matches. This is all you can say for this pay-per-view. It culminated in a wrestling match. And not even a good wrestling match at that.
Because right as, the match was trundling along with the nicest fella in the world, and right as, the little, you imagine the little lighter this is going to light the spark, and the pay-per-view is going to come together, and, the world is going to come together and shake hands, and right towards the end of it, the world just stopped, and David Arquette walked out. Three of the worst things about WCW are in this very pay-per-view.
And didn't the bell ring and then they just carried on wrestling? Did I make that up?
No, that happened.
Yeah.
Just what was it? Was it 2 out of 3 Bagwells or something? I've never got Buff Bagwell, man. But
you introduce Arquette at the 11th hour, sporting the blonde hair. I know what movie he was shooting. Tony Schiavone mentions he was shooting a movie. I know what movie that is. That was C-Spot Run, a film where David Arquette plays a postal worker who adopts a big bull mastiff. I recognise that from the hair. And it's not even that. David Arquette is introduced at the 11th hour, and he gets beat up at the end by the heel for an 11th hour of the 11th hour swerve by Canyon, who is neither heel nor face.
The
thing I find interesting about this match, and it takes us nicely into the next match, that for some reason they overdub Canyon's music, which is supposed to be DDP's music, which is in essence a really bad version of Smells of Teen Spirit, with something that sounds a wee bit similar enough, but not enough to get sued. Shane Douglas walks out to Perfect Strangers, more or less, by Deep Purple.
They were absolutely copyright exempt at that point for reasons of nobody watching. I think we should move on to match number 4, which is Chronic versus The Perfect Event versus Sean O'Haire and Mark Jindrak versus The Misfits in Action, which is General Erection and Corporal
No.
Kidman.
I refuse. I refuse to discuss this match because you know why. Rest in peace, Ryan. But fucking hell.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Match number 5. Fuck it. Billy Kidman versus Shane Douglas with Tori Wilson.
But again, can I just say one thing about that last match? Is I had no idea what was going on. None whatsoever.
No, neither did I. It was a mess. Completely.
All I would say that is Juventud is just like he can't spell Juventus. That's all I'm saying.
And it's a shame as well, because the minute Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Haire walked out, they look like these two they look like, guys who in another time, in another company could have been made men. Sean O'Haire, I think, is one of these guys who's sort of been forgotten by history. He had it all. He had, he was 6'6", 270, looked like a linebacker, could have went on to become this huge star, and instead he sort of got jumbled during the invasion, and he had the WCW tag title kind of stripped off him and was kind of relegated to the sidelines. They gave him a devil's advocate gimmick, and he was released by the E in 2003, and very sadly he's no longer with us. But I was just thinking, God, had they just let these guys go out and just had a series of either tags or one-on-ones and said, right, 12 minutes, tear the house down, this could have been so much more than it was. And it's the missed opportunity more than anything else that just depresses me.
Yeah.
So, on that subject, Billy Kidman versus Shane Douglas for possession of a sex tape. Am I making that up? Is there some kind of play in there?
I managed to black out this entire match, and it's a shame because I like Shane Douglas and I like Billy Kidman, and I saw the strap match involved, but they mentioned something about the strap match rules, about the traditional strap match rules, and I just blacked out, and I came to and the match was over. Because they couldn't just have a normal strap match for some reason. They had to have some stipulation on top of the gimmick. That's what I took for it.
And again, Tori Wilson does she does a lot of corpsing, and this. It's like there's a bit where I believe she strangles Billy Kidman with the strap, and she has a big cheeser. She has a big smile on her face because she knows not to take this thing seriously. She knows that no one else is into this, and who can blame her? Fair play to Tori Wilson. Very proud of her.
Didn't Tori Wilson get married to Billy Kidman?
I believe so.
I think they went out. I don't know if they're necessarily married.
Yeah, they were definitely a thing.
Why would you get married to Billy Kidman?
Can we just commend them for their relationship surviving New Blood Rising 2000?
Do you think on their wedding night, if they had one, I don't know if they're married, is on the shooting star press foot of the bed?
Let's not get into murky territory now, Thomas. Let's keep our standards up by discussing the next match, which is Major Guns versus Miss Hancock.
Right, this is when I messaged in the chat the other day and said this is vile. And I'm not talking about the stipulation of the idea of basically having an evening gown style match. We saw it in Actually Did It enough times. They even managed to overbook a fucking evening gown match where the gimmick is to have them strip each other of their camouflage. They managed to overbook that into nonsense. All they had to do was get semi-naked, and they still managed to fuck that up. Not the people involved, but the bookers and writers managed to make an arse of it.
You have to book that as well. Surely it's just right, your MO here is you wear clothes, you pull each other's clothes off, and a load of hillbillies start whooping.
Yeah. And it's literally a mud show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, that's part of it, right? You strip each other's clothes off, but you also need to go to the mud bath as well. And then just on top of it, we're going to hint at a miscarriage angle because this classy match really needed more to it.
Match number 7, Sting versus the Demon. Now,
right. Here's I need to say one thing about this, right, before we start getting into the fact that it was so distasteful that they have him fucking come down to the rafters in Canada. But hey, that's another story.
Yeah.
This show is called New Blood Rising, so let's get one of the oldest fucking stars in WCW bury and squash one of the newest wrestlers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There is that Sting thing when his music hit, and again he unhooked, and it was just a wave of, oh, you're so much better than this. Like, can you imagine I had Sting just decided, oh, fuck this, I don't need this anymore, and he had actually taken the 300-day contract with the Fed. I'm trying to imagine how Sting's career would have went had he just jumped ship in '99. And when you're fantasy booking another entire run while you're watching a match, you know something's wrong. You really are.
Also, Barry, bit of trivia. So you might know this, you might not. The Demon was originally Bryan Adams of Crush fame, lesser known Chronic fame. He never once wrestled a match under that gimmick, but he did debut as the Demon.
Mm.
Oh, sorry, the Demon debuted with Bryan Adams as the person under the makeup, but he just wasn't in it, so they replaced him and they didn't really care or notice because the character was fucking terrible. And the idea was to have a Kiss-style stable with each Kiss member having their own wrestler, not just Simmons. Unfortunately, that never happened.
Can you imagine, like, Turner's lawyers just, like, dodging, lawsuits like fucking Neo out the Matrix?
Oh, no. Kiss were involved.
No.
Yeah, it was sponsored by Kiss. Kiss were involved. The Demon made his debut, I think it was Nitro or Thunder. We'll just say it was Nitro. And Kiss were playing God of Thunder. And then he was revealed and debuted as Bryan Adams, but never actually wrestled under the gimmick.
Well,
I like the idea of WCW surviving, but Kiss going bankrupt. That's a fantasy run I want to book where Kiss go bankrupt because they just put all their money to WCW.
Well, I have seen Kiss live twice. I have never, unfortunately, seen a WCW house show. I never will. No. Actually, I say that. Vince will have watched. Vince will watch this podcast and then fucking revamp WCW and relaunch it next week to say he's done everything else with.
And
in keeping with my thing, I just want to say this all just before we finish. Thomas, in keeping with my statement at the start, even Vince has limits. Vince does have lines that will not be crossed.
Yeah, you're right. It'll be NXT New Blood Rising will be the next pay-per-view.
Nearly did a spit take there.
Where the fuck did you come from? No, I went to a WCW house.
He's just floating about all these.
It's Cammy showing up.
It's sort of like the old man in the meme, call an ambulance, but not for me.
It's like Game of Thrones, you know, with the kind of man of many faces. You think it's Cammy, but it takes the face off. It's Marty Jannetty.
I went to a WCW house show, and I remember it being really shit. And the only good wrestler who came out was Ric Flair. And going back and looking on WCW, I can fully understand why it sucked.
When was that? That must have been a good while ago.
It was a good while ago because WCW's been out of business for 20 years. So I must have been about 6-7 years old.
I'm trying to add the math up as well here. I'm like, were you at that last one in Florida?
I was at the last night.
I like to imagine Shane just giving you the thumbs up as he walked to the ring and absolutely crushed the company.
It was just a fucking 7-year-old me,
Yeah, if you go back and watch it, you see a 7-year-old in the crowd talking to his dad and say, that's a terrible idea.
Right. For the interest of our Twitter page, I'm going to scan that episode and just look for a kid in the crowd and went, here's our team member, not Oliver Butler at the last WCW Nitro in 2001.
Here's me giving consent to the McMahon family to absolutely fuck it once again.
He's like a little Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator, just with a thumb down.
I just thought that girls with time machine, boys with time machine meme. Yeah. But it's me going back to the last episode of Nitro and be like, yeah, sounds good.
Eric, do not accept that man's CV. Do not accept that man's CV whatsoever.
Don't do it, Shane.
Yeah, Sting versus the Demon. I don't want to. I just want to say this before we move on. In doing so, I had to look up the Wikipedia pages of the performers who maybe didn't, attain the same levels of success outside of WCW. And fun fact, the Demon, the Kiss Demon, now works as he's either a head of talent relations or he's a trainer for a baseball team in America. And he married the China ripoff Asia, who worked for WCW. So good for him. Right, match number 8, Lance Storm versus Mike Awesome. Now,
how the fuck can they mess this up?
Yes, you've got the hometown hero who's the smaller guy. You've got the little baby face. He's already was he the TV champion and the hardcore champion? I know he was the hardcore champion, and he was also, I don't know, did he have the US title at one point? They might have been known how it goes, but I've never really mentioned this before, but I was a huge Mike Awesome mark in my teens. I used to love his matches that he had at Heatwave. I want to say Heatwave 98 with Masato Tanaka. That's one of my all-time favourite matches. And again, the return match at ECW One Night Stand 2005. Yeah. So I'm a huge Mike Awesome fan. Knowing how his career went when he went to WCW, he was initially booked. He was given this career killer gimmick, which predates the Legend Killer thing with Randy Orton, and then he was eventually Russo got sick of calling him the career killer, and he became the Fat Chick Thriller, and his entire gimmick was that he would fat women with a 70s gimmick. So I just want to say fuck this entire no, I can't whisper this. It's Jacques Rougeau, I believe. Yeah, Jacques Rougeau is the ref for this, and there's a whole bunch of stipulations. In Canada, you have to get a 5 count. In Canada,
what the fuck was that about? He's got to be down for 10 minutes, 10 seconds. What the fuck is that about?
That's
what the fuck?
I'm like, oh cool, Landstorm might cost him. I'm actually quite looking forward to this match. It's been a terrible pay-per-view up to this point. I'm thinking, these guys surely can't do any wrong. But the powers that be made sure, did their best to make sure they could. Oh god.
They got a bad match out of Landstorm and Mike Awesome. How the fuck do you do that?
The crowd were laughing. The crowd were laughing. If we go to like a 3 and a 4 count, the crowd were laughing.
But it became like watching Rocky Horror Picture Show after a while. Like they were enjoying it in a camp way. Like Landstorm should have been, Rocky versus Ivan Drago, and it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening. You're not supposed to feel sympathy for the heel Mike Awesome, and yet, well, it's sort of debatable because in Canada, obviously America, the whole thing's flip flop. So obviously you've got Landstorm acting as the face. Or at least what should have happened, and Mike Awesome should have been the heel, and they completely jumble it. So everyone's back to front, everyone's nibbity thronked side to side, diagonally, non-diagonally, and it's such a. And again, Bret Hart comes out, and I felt that parental thing about. I'm not angry, I'm just very, very disappointed. The pay-per-view had crushed me long before Bret Hart had walked out.
Was that not Bret's last pay-per-view appearance for WCW?
Yes. Yep. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Just to get back on that, like the whole Canadian rules thing, in that, you've got to have a 5 count and then he's got to be down for a 10 count, like some sort of weird stipulation. Canada is just above America, and they're making it sound like some sort of strange foreign land where the wrestlers wear their tights over their face, and that you've got to be declared legally dead before you can like lose the match or something. When it's just like America Junior.
Oh, you're forgetting the one important thing about this match. They literally did make it up as they went along. And I mean that, not in terms of the booking. Oh, actually, they mean it in terms of the booking. I genuinely think somebody was in Rojo's ear saying, right, now do this, right, now do that. It's not like the start of the match.
Bro, imagine if Landstorm has to stay down for 10 seconds for Mike Awesome to get the win. Bro, it would be fantastic, bro.
That's an amazing impression.
Thank you, mate. I am absolutely going to keep on doing that.
It
was only a matter of time before I had to burst out with the Vince Russo talk. I had to, and I saved it for a sweet moment.
Hey, Landstorm must have a gabagoo.
Hey, Lance,
hey, I'm fucking over here.
Oh, you got Mike Awesome going over in Canada. I don't think so, bro. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Can you imagine Vince Russo?
Hey, you see Judy Bagwell, she's on the forklift, and whoever wins gets to fuck her, right?
Buff Bagwell takes her home, he takes her out the forklift, he takes us back to her hotel room, and he does her up the ass.
Oh man, that's it. We've jumped the shot.
How can you review this show and then jump the shark?
Yeah.
I was going to say, can you imagine Matt Riddle and Vince Russo in the same room having a conversation? I think the universe would explode.
It's like two Flanders talking to one another. It's like, hey,
hey. You sound like fucking owls.
I would take a 5-hour compilation of HBK intakers, before I take 5 minutes of Riddle and Russo doing the protest.
Let's have a table of 4. Russo, Riddle, Taker, and Sean. Bro, 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 bro. And then have Hogan walks at the end. Something being Gene, brother. I can't believe these guys have been ripping off Hogan's gimmicks for years.
Oh, that's a take that every wrestler is just Hulk Hogan.
The only way that table of 4 could be any better is if at the end it just camera cuts to Bret Hart and he goes, "That was a real 4 out of 10 kind of an interview,
You get Vince saying, "Bro screwed bro,"
bro,
fantastic, bro.
That's a bit more gruff. That's a bit more of a hunter.
If only there was somebody else that said "and things of that nature," we could get somebody to bounce off Vince, and it would be fantastic. Yeah.
Who else would fucking say "and things of that nature"? Only a man as just demented as Vince McMahon would say "and things of that nature" every 5 minutes.
By the way,
So I
Vince,
remember
we love you. We love you.
Steve Austin podcast, just like, yeah, then we pushed Pat Patterson in the pool and things of that nature, and I once run over a man in my Bentley and things of that nature. I sold a lot of steroids and things of that nature to a guy.
Whoa, hey,
Allegedly.
hey. Let's cut that.
He was
malarkey out
acquitted.
right now. Don't make me do my Joe Biden malarkey finger wagging.
It's time for some malarkey. Just like to clarify that after that alleged comment that Joe Biden has never sold steroids to anyone.
And neither has Vince McMahon.
No.
Well,
Just
you can
ask Hulk Hogan.
As far as we know.
as far as allegedly.
Allegedly.
I have no interest in talking about the Dark Carnival versus Chronic.
What
Yeah, I know.
the...
No.
And I like that. I like the Insane Clown Posse, and I'm actually disgusted that they've managed to sell their good name by calling this stable the Dark Carnival.
Oh yeah, I just remember that. When Buff Bagwell rescues his mum off the forklift, there's that guy in Juggalo makeup on the front row. Just in full Juggalo makeup.
Yeah.
As if it wasn't...
Vampiro cuts what I think he thinks is a really, really great promo to Sting about the fate of the Juggalo army. You know, it really feels like, he's fucking Aragorn and this is the Battle of the Two Towers, and it's like,
Hey, I'll give Vampiro's credit. He was invested in that character.
yeah, and naturally, of course, while I was doing my Wikipedia browser, I had to know, was there any real life animosity between Sting and Vampiro? And apparently there was. Because apparently, when Vampiro joined the company in 1998, he apparently had a verbal altercation with Sting behind the stage, where he said to Sting, "You only put on that face paint, once a night, and it's for a match. I do it 24/7, buddy." Like, Vampiro was a juggalo. Make no mistake, he was absolutely a shoot juggalo, not a work to juggalo, as the script may pertain. He lived the gimmick, and in researching Vampiro's Wikipedia page, he currently believes he's being haunted by two spirits as a result of an exorcism or a seance gone wrong. You can Google that, by the way. I'm not messing with that.
Hold on. Did Vampiro think Sting was a juggalo?
He must have done, yeah.
I'm hearing rumour that Vince McMahon supplied Vampiro with Fago.
We will not have one juggalo harmed.
Do you think Vampiro's great favourite wrestler was Dean Malenko because of Great Malenko?
You know what's making this worse? I cut a chili up earlier and then I scratched my back, and it's like burning through me at the moment. I have to discuss this pay-per-view that is just burning through my brain.
But can you imagine Vampiro's disappointment with there being a juggalo character in GTA 5 and you're not allowed to play as him? He must have been furious. Absolutely furious. Yeah, I love how we said we weren't going to talk about that, and then we did. Match number 10, and I know this big sub-main event, the sub-main event to end all sub-main events, Kevin Nash versus Scott Steiner versus Goldberg. My boy, Kevin Nash, whatever they were paying him in that final year, he earned it. I just want to put that up ahead of time.
Right, let's just skip to the fact that Goldberg walks out the match halfway through.
Yep.
I only want to jump to that just now because it's called New Blood Rising. And they write Goldberg out of the match to have Scott Steiner, who is synonymous with WCW, and Kevin Nash, who, let's be honest, is no spring chicken at this point, in the semi-main event. And that's if it getting to why Goldberg even walked out.
I just think we're just at such a pitch black point in the history of WCW. Like, Kevin Nash is effectively, he's like the last member of the NWO at this point because Hogan's gone, Hall. But I know it went, NWO and then NWO Wolfpack, but whatever. Hogan was gone at this point. Scott Hall was gone at this point. It really was, Kevin Nash still battering on in there with that red and black outfit. It's still trying to pull the legs off this. I mean, it's so. And again, Scott Steiner, nothing clicked. And the minute Goldberg leaves under the guise of it being a work, was it? Of course it was a work. Steiner starts, calling him a bitch. I don't know if that was me just inventing that, but I'm pretty sure Steiner starts verbally slamming him after Goldberg walks out anyway. So
it wasn't a work because the commentators didn't know how to react to it, and they were kind of saying to the crowd, I don't think that was part of the script, and I don't know if he's going to business himself. And the commentators looked genuinely perplexed on how to handle that. It was so genuinely real, especially when Vince Russo came out to tell Goldberg to go back into the ring. I for one genuinely thought Goldberg just decided fuck this, because I would have been the same if I was Goldberg.
Yeah. And again, it's like, Goldberg pulls himself out from in between Kevin Nash's legs, and Kevin Nash does the kind of the puppy eyes emoji face. And I actually felt sorry for him. I really did. There's so few long-timers still left in WCW at this point. You've got Sting. I think Flair was still with the company at this point. Sting, Flair, Nash, and that. And again, it's just, there's been such a drag through I often look at this as like, TNA had a great couple of first years.
Yeah.
And they were make or break. This is how it could have went. I always look at this as the barometer of here's how it could have went. And again, I can't even add anything. It's just such a piss poor.
The fact that Goldberg tells Vince Russo "fuck you" as he walks out, and it's not been dubbed, it's not been censored, it's not been anything, and I think it's because nobody's been back and watched this. Yeah. I'm actually amazed that Kanye doesn't come out to fucking Smells Like Teen Spirit, let alone DDP's rip-off version music.
It's got to be that no one has gone back to this. They've just put the tape onto the network. Who's going to go out of their way to watch this apart from a load of fucking idiots who then come round to come and talk about it and slag it off? So that creates the feedback loop of, well, no one's going to fucking watch this.
I was supposed to be in Vancouver this year, and while I was in Vancouver, I was meant to see the Rolling Stones. Coronavirus nixed that. This week, I'm supposed to be in Poland to go and see Rage Against the Machine. Because of coronavirus, that's not happening. Because of coronavirus, we started this fucking podcast, and as a result, I had to watch New Blood Rising, and that is by far the worst thing that's ever happened during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Right.
Not to me, but in life.
You did have to watch Canadian Stampede, so ebbs and flows, apples and oranges, and we're going to give ourselves an almighty treat next week. So hang on in there, baby.
We will be watching Hulk Hogan and Mr. Nanny.
We're going to watch Halloween Havoc 1998, the Warrior versus Hogan rematch.
Isn't that like 3.5 hours long?
I don't know, but the DDP Goldberg matches on it is really good.
Okay,
I'm up for just reviewing a match from a pay-per-view and talking about that for 40 minutes, to be fair.
We have 3 minutes to jump towards the finish. I'm going to talk about the main event, which is Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett. Poor Booker T. I mean, if ever there was a guy who was trying... And again, I just want to say, as they had the little match title card display thing, I was gazing at my phone, and I must have been browsing through Vampiro's Wikipedia page or whatever, and it came up, I overheard Tony Schiavone saying, next up, it's the Chosen One versus the People's Champ. And I remember my head actually jacked up for a minute, my eyes squinted. I thought, wait a minute, I didn't fucking hear that right, did I? And I took my Fire Stick remote, and I made a habit of reversing it 15 seconds. And sure enough, Tony Schiavone, next up it's the Chosen One versus the People's Champion. And I thought, holy fuck. They've just decided to make it Booker T The Rock.
No, what the is DDP was the People's Champion before The Rock. That's the thing that's even worse. They've not only fucked over The Rock, they just stole DDP's gimmick. And
hey, if this is anyone other than Diamond Dallas Page, you're stealing my bit.
Not just that, don't just steal his gimmick for Booker T, they steal his gimmick for fucking Canyon. He's leaving on the show.
Was DDP still with the company at this point, or had he wrapped it?
I don't have a clue.
Oh no, he got paid off, and everything. But no, in fact he didn't, because he was at the Fed in 2001 when he had that feud with Taker. He's got to be here.
He's got to be here for the Canyon thing to make any sort of sense, surely.
You would think, wouldn't you? Yeah, Jeff Jarrett. I feel like Jeff Jarrett has been a man who's been dogged by some rather unfortunate gimmicks. When I think of Jeff Jarrett, and this is not a knock to Jeff Jarrett. I think IC title picture. I like Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett
could not main event a pay-per-view.
No, and the thing is for me again,
Austin versus Rock versus Hogan could not have main evented this pay-per-view. This thing was gone.
Again, it's called New Blood Rising, and it's really, really strange and really, really sad that I look at Jeff Jarrett as being one of the older guys in this main event, but he's younger than Booker T. But Booker T to me does feel like the new blood of WCW. Jeff Jarrett doesn't, unfortunately. And I like Jeff Jarrett as well, but just at this stage, it just doesn't feel that they're really kind of setting him up to be the face of the company.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a spot when Booker T's making a point of shaking or giving everybody a high five in the crowd, and one member actually tries to pull his arm off, and I thought, okay, so this is how they're going to do a run-in. Somebody else is going to interfere in the match to start off with, and then Jarrett's going to have the advantage. No, turns out it was just a fan that tried to dislocate Booker T's shoulder, which really jinxes it to begin with, and he's already working with an injured knee. And again, because we might as well just talk about the end of the match. Booker T wins. Spoiler alert. He starts getting pelted with, cups of Coca-Cola and that. The fans, they knew it was a terrible show. There was no point in pretending the fans had any sort of amusement here or that. He starts getting pelted with, these red Coca-Cola cups and that. It's like, do you understand how irate a Canadian crowd has to be? One of the most stereotypically nice people in the world. How on earth have you turned them into like the Philadelphia ECW fans? How have you managed to do that?
It was just so poor.
It was just shit.
It was just so poor.
I have no idea what the hell anybody was thinking in greenlighting this pay-per-view.
Even the agents of the matches, this had to be one of these things where as soon as everybody got through the curtain, it was just a collective slap on the back.
Yeah.
Not a
and that's why
just a slap.
I am quite happy to go with a conspiracy theory that the whole Goldberg thing was indeed a shoot because he went, fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, they'll say again it's a work shoot and it was all planned, but yeah, I completely agree with you.
Oh no, it was definitely a work. But I mean, I can genuinely believe Goldberg went, I don't want anything to do with this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes it a work is that he got that far into the match.
It's one of those. I just believe it was a complete shoot. He's made his fucking millions. He probably knows the company's going out of business or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, at that point, do you just turn around? I mean, we've probably all had jobs where we've turned around and be like, you know what, fuck this, I'm off. It's no different. It doesn't matter that you're just some incredibly jacked bald guy who throws people about. It's still your job, man. It's still work. And he probably said, yeah, fuck this.
There was a focal point. We were discussing the Lumberjacks, and we were talking about there's a spot in the match when Kevin Nash looks at either side of the ring, and then he does a big smile, and he does a big suicide dive over the top rope into all these little jobbers and that. And as we all know, 1995 was not a great year for business, but you could tell Kevin Nash was having the time of his life. Him, the rest of the members of the clique, at least somebody was having some fun. Nobody on the roster was having fun here. This was just a complete slog.
That's not true. Vampiro was having fun.
Was Vampiro having fun?
Do you think Vampiro went up to Kiss and went, guys, why are you ripping off ICP?
He was the face on the poster for this pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is Vampiro's eyes, and then the shittiest sort of, uninspired New Blood Rising font graphic thing. It was just, ugh.
We should have known it was going to be bad.
The thing is, right, the eyes are Vampiro's, but at a glance it could also be Sting. Which makes you wonder, if you think it's Sting, you go, why is it called New Blood Rising if Sting's face is on the poster? But then you think to yourself, well, it's Vampiro's face, that makes sense, apart from the fact it doesn't really feature that strongly.
I just want to put this thing as far back in the rearview mirror as humanly possible.
I think we actually got some funnies out of it in the end. Whether or not everyone else finds it funny, I don't know, but I think Vince Russo will be making an appearance on future podcasts.
Yeah, let's get Vince through. So he follows us on Twitter. Let's get him
Yes,
on
he
the
does.
podcast, Lewis.
And
Does he actually follow us on Twitter?
Yeah.
yes, he does.
Right, let's get him to listen to this episode.
But I just want to put up one last before he unfollows us and unblocks us. I just want to put up this tweet. Has Dick Cheney approached you about buying the rights to New Blood Rising 2000 as a method of enhanced interrogation during the Bush administration?
Oh!
You don't have to answer, Vince, but we will make fun of you if you don't.
Vince, please come on the podcast and tell your side of the story. There's always two sides of the story. If you think we've been harsh, please come on, bro. Discuss it.
I had such a great working script, and the suits just pulled it off me at the 11th hour. Bro, it was that I had stuff that was on Mania 17 tier, and it just got dashed by unnamed sources, bro.
Fact, to be the bookers, I'm going to add a wee bit on the end here. Did you see Dave Meltzer was getting a hard time on Twitter, as he does, but somebody said, well, if you know everything, why don't you book a wrestling company? And it put something up about like how he's not got enough time to book wrestling companies or something. And he made a joke about like it made some kind of joke about bookers and how much time it takes, the money. And Tony Khan said, I've done okay. And people went, oh, well, King, well, you've dropped your crown and all that. As if Tony Khan's made his fucking fortune off booking wrestling shows, let's be honest. In fact, see your Meltzers, your Kellers, your Alvarez's and that as well. You can come on and fucking argue your case as well because you're dicks. I've been drinking.
Yes.
Good night.
Let's get off our chest. On to some, brighter and better news now that we've done. It is a toss-up between Unforgiven 2006 or Mr. Nanny. I say all in.
Lewis, I love how you just disappearing into the background right now.
I know, I'm disappearing into the
You
background.
lit horribly. It just feels like talking about New Blood Rising has just caused you to.
Saturday.
Right.
I just realised Vince Russo's got some makeup under his eyes. He's a juggalo.
Yeah. Like we needed any more reason to have any greater disdain for him. Right. Yeah. So.
Don't diss the juggalos, man. I'm fucking.
I mean, half of the Juggalo army.
Let's do it in 2006 next week.
Let's do it 2006, and then we can do Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny is our Joker in the hole.
That's our get out of jail free clause.
It is.
That, don't kill David Arquette. No, wait a second, you can't kill David Arquette, and then the resurrection of James. Those will be our three big
Mr.
Nanny. Yes. Like, we'll smuggle it in between Resurrection of Jay the Snake and you can't kill David Arquette.
The rise and fall of Mr. Nanny.
Suburban Nanny.
Right, guys, I'm just gonna sign off for now. Until next time. Next Thursday.
Yeah. Take it.
Right.
Bye.
Let's stop now.
Yes.